tell my younger self as far as writing stuff, because a lot of this stuff is organic. You learn it as you go.
It's strange. It's nothing I ever expected.
I want to tell my stories by eliciting emotion in my audience.
So it's an organic process. They sort of layer on top of each other. Each one makes the next layer more obvious to me.
This whole thing could not have gone any smoother.
I usually say squat only in groups of 3. I like to batch it, like squat, squat, squat.
Look, guys, this one's not going to be like normal. It's just not.
Welcome to the Writer's Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the mellifluous Kaylin Williams.
That's a big difference. It's like, are you talking or are you doing? What's happening here?
We still have all the pets that think, oh, it's time to eat. It doesn't matter if it's 4 a.m.
My name is Walt, and this is Coffee and Concepts on Keystroke Medium.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes, here with the one and only Neal Asher, returning for the third time now on Keystroke. Neal, welcome back to the show, brother.
Thank you for inviting me.
Look, as much fun as I've had on the previous two, and I'm sure we'll have the same amount of fun on this one, you're welcome back anytime. Because not only do you have a lot of fun stories, but you can provide a lot of deep insights into writing that the lowly people like myself really thrive on. So we appreciate that a lot.
No, it's age. It's age.
Yeah.
Yeah, of years.
Yeah. It's the maturity and the experience, and yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Yeah,
right. Let's see. Barter today. Luke was the first comment of today, and he says first. Yes, Luke, you were the first comment, so he gets the Keystroke Medium golf clap of appreciation. Thank you. Let me know, like the last time I had this headset, if I'm like barking into the mic and you guys are thinking it's super loud, let me know. I can't tell because I can't hear myself. Kayleen, what's up? Tom Hoddle is in the chat. Welcome. Facebook user, I bet if I were to bet myself $5, which I'm not going to because I don't want to lose the $5, then Facebook user, that's not the Facebook user comment that I see. Why is Facebook being okay, I don't know what's happening here. Facebook user, hello. Welcome. I can't find out who you are because Facebook is stupid, but whatever. Welcome everybody to the show. It's been a while, I think, since we've had a consistent show, and I know we missed last week. Steve Bollier could not be here today. He had some family stuff going on, and so did Chuck. They both are out doing some family things today. Maybe if they catch on halfway through the show and they want to hop in, they're more than welcome, obviously. But for now, you're stuck with me and Neal, and I think that's quite enough for everybody. Neal made a great point before we started the show that we can waffle along pretty much better than anybody else, and we're really good at that. So you might hear both of us.
That's one of the aspects of us older guys, you know. The waffling is, you know,
yeah,
becomes an art form,
right? Well, let's talk about what we had going on this week, man. I had a lot of stuff happen. So why don't you go ahead and go first and give us an update on what you've been doing the last couple of weeks?
Well, last week or so, I live on Crete. As you can see the stone house behind me and a little bit of it here. But I've been on holiday effectively. My niece and her boyfriend came out here on holiday, and I've been acting as a tour guide and taking them around the island, showing them the bits and pieces. This is just a beautiful scenery here and so on. And well, today I'm absolutely wiped out because I got up at 4:30 in the morning. And they got up about half hour later, I think it was. And at 6 o'clock, we were at the foot of a place called Pervalakia Gorge. And we went up that and then back down through the mountains. And this was not over 9 miles walk.
Man.
Well, more of a walk and scramble because it's up and down rocks and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
9 miles, about 2,500 feet above sea level. It was 29 degrees centigrade at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then it just steadily went up, and it's hit 40 today. And also up on the mountains, the wind was so severe, the gusts of wind so severe that I mean, at one point I nearly just knocked sprawling, but just by the wind, and it sent my sunglasses about 20, 30 feet down the mountain or whatever. So I mean,
did you get them back?
I did, and then I had to bring them back here and straighten them out.
Oh no!
I had to get the pliers out on the damn things.
Wow.
So yes, I've been on a hot. I've just said like, okay, put the writing aside because I do it all the time, you know, when there's nobody here. So I just put the writing aside and just get on with having a holiday. But I have done some stuff previously, but.
How often do you take writing holidays? I think one of the interesting things about writers in general, especially writers that aren't full time, they write all the time. You know, write every day, get your words, and do all that. And you know, we kind of forget sometimes that you got to recharge and you've got to take a break, and you don't want to feel. Sometimes even my wife has to tell me, take a day off because you're going to get burnt out, and then I feel guilty for taking that day off. How often do you take? How often do you take time off?
That's the OCD aspect of writing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been talking about this with somebody I know about my OCD, how I keep a journal and I write out my tasks with little tick boxes for me to tick and all this sort of thing. And how many, you know, and when I'm writing, of course, how many thousand words and all this.
Right.
But not previously. I mean, I didn't get into writing until later in life. So I had a work ethic before.
Right.
Going out, you know, working all sorts of jobs. So initially, in the initial years, I would write it's the same as like a working week. Yeah. So I'd write 5 days a week and then take the weekend off. Holidays. Well, back then, I mean, holidays the same as usual, like the trip abroad for 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
So I work like that. Nowadays, though, because it's sometimes it's strange if you've had that working life beforehand, the getting up in the morning and having to go into the place and clock in or whatever.
Right, right.
It gets established in you. Yeah. And you feel that you've got to work during the week. And then you feel at the weekend, no, this is where I stop because it's been inculcated in you. That's what you've been doing.
Yeah, it's a habit.
But I've been drifting out of that in recent years, but just carrying on every day. Yeah, working every day.
Right.
Taking stops when I'm just, I don't know, just feel exhausted.
Yeah. What's the thing? If you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I've been doing a lot of planning, as it were. So on my novel, Weaponized Fury, which has no relation to Neal's novel Weaponized. I got caught up a couple of weeks ago in what I was doing with the book and where I wanted the series to go, and I realized that the book I was writing was not delivering the promise of the series that I wanted to tell of the overarching story of these people. And so I got hemmed up there for several days trying to figure that out, and finally just figured out if that's not the story I want to tell, then don't tell that story. And so now I ended up probably cutting about 40,000 words of the original draft for the first book, adding in another POV character, and then basically I'm now shoving it in the right direction. But that's taken.
Have you got your science fiction bits file?
Yes.
With all the pieces that you're chopping out of things and
right. Yes,
I've got one of those.
That file grows daily.
Yeah. Have you ever turned something that you've chopped out? Have you ever sort of taken that and gone like, I'll turn that into a short story or something? Or
there are parts of a trilogy that I did called the Valor trilogy. There were parts that were included in that book that I took out of. And interesting, I don't know that I have it around here. I don't. The first book I wrote ever in a notebook, a regular rule lined notebook when I was 14, I wrote a science fiction book. And then I finished that and then wrote a sequel to that book. And parts of those books and characters from those books ended up in my Valor trilogy. Of course, there's no file to cut and paste. They were just like the hard copies that I was like, okay, I'm going to take this out of there and I'm going to take that out of there. So stuff that I wrote when I was 14, 15, 16 years old made it into some of the novels that I wrote just 2 years ago.
As I was saying to you, I've put together a short story collection, which incorporates lots of my old short stories that have just been sitting on the computer for ages. But all I was doing, I was writing, because it was requested, I've been writing big introductions to each story and so on. And what you were saying just there, it just reminds me of something I wrote in one of the introductions, how years ago, probably when I was the same sort of age and writing something out in pen, whatever, it was just a piece of fiction, but it had things in it which have since reappeared in my polity books, in things like the Skinner and so on. I know that in that original, that piece of fiction, oh God, a long time ago.
When you were chiseling on stone, like writing hieroglyphs on the wall in the cave.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, there was an alien character, a giant crab called Ebulan, and that character, in a totally different form, then appears in the Skinner X number of decades later.
Right.
You know, these things hang around, don't they? But,
right.
Yeah, we would go with that chiseling on the stone. That's the lead in, isn't it?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly.
How did it's like? God, then I think when I started writing, I thought, okay, writers write with a fountain pen. Yeah? And and that's how I started. I had reams of computer paper that my father brought back from his college, and I got a fountain pen and I started writing on that.
I actually bought one. I have one. I mean, it's not an old one, but I bought one. I've got the liquid ink. Completely like not really efficient at all, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be fancy and get one. And so I write with it all the time. I love writing with this fountain pen, though. I wish I would have got one years before.
Yeah, I thought about doing that with like writing a journal. I thought I'll do some nice writing with the fountain pen, and then you forget things and you close it, and you basically got a copy of what you've just written.
100%.
You've got to wait for that stuff to bloody dry.
Oh yeah, I realized that the first time I wrote with it. I wrote with it and then closed it, and the whole thing just went smeared across the page. Kid said, "Josh, I am not a hipster at all, 100%. Just because I like fountain pens." I actually have my the journal that I is this the one that I one of the one I have my name embossed in, not because I'm a hipster. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, but because it holds the moleskin journals. So I've got like the A5 or the A whatever it is moleskin journals, and it fits in this leather deal.
I'll be 1 second.
Uh-oh, we got more props. You can tell by the beard. Tom Hoddle, the beard is not a hipster beard. The beard is something completely classy. Oh, is that yours?
Yeah, and it's like I have back in England, I have a stack of them up in my loft, and it must go up to, I don't know, 2-3 feet high. Again, it's the age.
Yeah. Look, I actually, we talked about, I've talked about this on a couple of other episodes. I haven't done it.
Also,
oh, hold on.
all the tip boxes I was telling you about, but also written in Greek, a lot of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all Greek to me. I can't read it.
well, there's some English there, but I also practiced my Greek in it as well. So,
yeah, I actually really, really enjoy journaling, especially so I'll get up early. Like you mentioned, getting up at 4:30. My alarm goes off at 4:47, whether I get out of bed or not. And then sometimes I'll hit the snooze for an hour, and then sometimes I will get up. But I like to get up, and like this morning, I got up and I got I don't know, 13 or 1500 words before we did anything in the day. I'll get up and sit outside on the deck and write. And then normally when the kids are getting ready for school, I will sit up at the dinner table with a cup of coffee and then just journal while they're doing their stuff, because then I don't really have to concentrate on what I'm doing. But somebody has to be up to corral the children as they're running around being crazy in the mornings.
yeah.
But I really love journaling. It's not something that I've done for a long time. I think I've done it for a couple of years, so I don't have stacks and stacks and stacks, even though I do have stacks of notebooks that are mostly empty pages, but I love buying notebooks. So I have 1,000 notebooks that are halfway full.
Yeah. But then you can't bear to throw them when you have written something in them. You can't bear to throw them away.
Oh yeah.
Yes. No, I mean, when I started, it was all part of the trying to discipline myself. Way back, I mean, I wanted to write a word quantity every day.
Yeah.
And many years back, it was I would do 1,000 words a day. But I also said that I was going to write 1 page of a journal every day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just because that's it in the end. I mean, when people say well, how do you write? Yeah. Well, you write. You write.
100%. You said something earlier, and I just want to yell at Ken really quickly, because he said I have tattoos and I have fountain pens and I like cold brew, so that makes me a hipster, which is not entirely correct. I don't like cold brew coffee, so you're wrong.
I do. Does that make me a hipster?
Oh yes, you're definitely a hipster then. By Ken's math.
It's the Greek thing, isn't it? It's the what's my one? Freddo cappuccino. Does that make me a hipster?
I don't. Is that what type of cappuccino? Is that a cold brew?
It's what they do is they make a real coffee.
Okay.
With the machine.
Yeah.
And then they chill it down with ice, and then they foamed cream or whatever on top.
Oh.
And then a bit of cinnamon or chocolate on top of that, and you can have it, as they say here. It can be Sketo, Metrio, or Glico. Sketo means no sugar. Metrio, medium sweet. Glico, very sweet.
Very sweet. Nice. Tom says if you do it ironically, it makes you a hipster. Okay. All right. That works. Okay. So you mentioned later when you had other jobs and stuff before you got to writing later in life. I don't know that we've ever dived into that aspect of you as a writer, the beginning of Neal Asher, the author. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I know we talked a little after the show last time about working on the early computers and typewriters and all that stuff. Well, let's talk about how you first got into it. Have you always been a reader? Have you always been interested in writing? And how did that come about?
Well, combine it with the jobs, I suppose.
Yeah.
When I was young teenager kid or whatever, I had interests in everything, yeah, in all sorts of things. I loved biology. I loved like physics, playing around with electronics, art, all these different things. And I kept doing all these different things. But also at that time when I was reading like crazy. And it was mostly science fiction.
Yeah. Do you remember what you read back in the day?
Oh, as I said in the introduction to the Skinner, it's from A for Eldest, from Z for the Zelazny. Yeah, everything like old Arthur C. Clarke's, James Blish, Asimov. I used to go down to I used to use up the library basically, and then I found this excellent. It was a house in the high street of my local town in the UK, Malden in Essex, and it was a whole house which was second-hand books.
Oh, nice!
And that was a dream because I'd go in there and the science fiction. I always came out with a carrier bag full of science fiction books.
Yeah,
and I mean, I worked it out. I mean, from teens into 20s, and this is averaging out. I was doing like 10 books a month, just reading. So,
did you have a favorite?
Favorites? The favorites changed and varied. I mean, I look back I read back on some of these old ones now, and some it's just I can't.
Right, I hear that. Yeah.
No, favorites. Oh, it's all over the place. I'd also read an awful lot of the fantasy that was knocking about 80s and 90s, whatever 80s, like Eddings and people like that, Belgariad and all sorts of stuff like Stephen Donaldson.
Yeah,
just lots and lots. The trouble is, people often say to me, "What's your favourite?" And it would back then it would change from week to week anyway.
Sure.
Thinking Tanith Lee was great, the fantasy. But I mean, I massively enjoyed the Donaldson books at the time when I read them, and there's loads.
Yeah. So the love of reading, is that what brought you to writing?
I love science fiction.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, maybe it's this, maybe not, but in school, we were in an English lesson. And the English teacher, instead of doing the usual thing of like teaching us the sentence structures and all this sort of thing, she just said, "Right, I want you all to just write a story." Yeah. And at the time I was reading my way through, I don't know if you know them, E.C. Tubb, the Doomeress saga.
Oh, I never heard of it.
It's E.C. Tubb. It went for about 30 books. And it was this guy called Earl Doomerest, out in space, always searching for Earth, and always getting in basically knife fights and all sorts of things. Just the kind of stuff a growing boy would like. Yeah,
for 100%. Yeah,
it was stuff like that, and also the Robert E. Howard, the Conan books, and and
cutting people's heads off is really good. Yeah.
Gunpowder on Mars and so on.
So
but yeah, I was reading all that, and she said, write a story. And I sat down and I wrote something. I mean, it was totally derivative of those E.C. Tubb books.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what was I about? 11, 12, something like that.
Yeah.
I did that, and she complimented it, as the best thing produced in the class. And I thought, oh, blimey, that's the first time anybody's actually said well done to me. So that might have been something that kicked it off. But what happened was it became one of my interests. Like I'd do a bit of writing, and then next thing I'll be painting or trying to build a laser out of electronics I pulled out of a dump somewhere.
Yes.
But it went for years like that, and then then I got into the working life, and it didn't go on. I carried on doing these things, but the working life took over, if you like.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in all sorts of different factories. I trained as an engineer, mechanical and production engineering, things like that.
Yeah.
So I was doing all that, getting into the working life, spending far too much time at the pub drinking beer and playing pool. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can relate. I can relate.
But I think, I mean, round about in my 20s, mid-20s, early 20s, I was still doing all these different things. And I just took the view, I can be a jack of all trades and master of none, or I can concentrate on one thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as far as my education was concerned, I couldn't see myself getting into university and taking the course of like studying physics or chemistry or biology, which were big interests of mine. And what I did was I fixed on writing, because I can make an eclectic selection of all these other interests. Yeah.
Right.
All these other interests don't stop, because I could carry on reading about it and investigating all these things that I liked. So I chose writing. I mean, meanwhile, during that time, I wrote longhand. I wrote one fantasy, which I don't know whatever happened to that. But then I wrote another fantasy longhand with a fountain pen.
Yes.
Then I typed it. Well, no, not that bit, but I started typing something else. Started typing on a manual typewriter, with the Tipex paper, all this on a manual typewriter. So I was going up through the different stages of things, because in later years, my brother Martin, who was he was a diesel fitter and then a bus driver, but then he decided to retrain for something, because there was this new jobs coming up, and it was IT. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So he trained up into that, which very near the start of it all really kicking off.
Yeah.
And he provided me with my first computer, which was like a 1 megabyte hard disk, green screen monitor.
Yes.
With a WordStar.
Yeah.
And you saved it to a 5 1/4 floppy disk.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had my dad. So I had a typewriter too. Mine was an electronic typewriter. It was
I missed that out, because I had the manual typewriter.
Oh, okay.
And then when I was self-employed, because I went self-employed after.
So you had the one that you had to like push back the other direction when you were done. Yeah.
But what I did was, when I was self-employed, I had a job driving skip lorries. You know what that is?
I know what a lorry is. I don't know what a skip lorry is.
The big steel containers that you drop off outside the front of somebody's house.
Oh,
they're
okay.
tearing out a load of stuff and they fill it up and then it's all taken away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But while I was driving skip lorries, I found a electronic typewriter in one of the skips. I took it out, I repaired it, I resoldered all the letters so that they actually hit where they were supposed to hit. And then I worked with an electronic typewriter for a little while before I went on to this, well, what nowadays would be seen as a very, very primitive computer.
Yeah, my mom, I don't even know why we had a typewriter. Like my parents were not writers. My dad was in the military and my mom was just a stay-at-home mom. And I don't, for the life of me, have any idea why we owned this typewriter. But I can remember buying I would make my mom buy the the economy size boxes of the eraser tape, because you could erase with this typewriter, but you had to have like a specific tape that went on top
Oh,
of the.
that was a highly advanced manual
Yeah,
typewriter. You had
yeah.
to do Tipex paper and
Oh no. Yeah, this was like the state of the art. Like you had the ink cartridge, which had the band that went around, and that sat in there, and then you had some kind of an eraser. I don't even remember how it's set up, but when you erased, it lifted the the ink cartridge up and then pounded out the erase thing on the paper, and then you could back it up and type all over again. So I wrote by hand, and then I used that typewriter and I typed a full manuscript of like 100,000 words with that typewriter on typewriter paper. And
have you tried going back, having a go on a typewriter since using keyboards for years?
no, I want to. It seems conceptually like it'd be really fun to do, but then like I think of how
You know they're
fast
going to
I
start
type.
calling you again.
What?
Hipster.
No, I know. Look, I've actually looked at those Bluetooth keyboards that look like typewriter keys. Like they're the old fashioned like round ones, and they're the deep set where you have to like press in. But I type so fast that I worry that that's not going to work for me. And then I'm just going to get frustrated and just move on.
I did it. I did years, electronic keyboard, whatever. In actual fact, my first keyboard, I wore a hole. I wore a hole through the space bar. I actually wore a hole through the space bar. My first keyboard, electronic keyboard. But when I tried to go back to the manual typewriter, God, it was hard.
Yeah.
You sort of
because you've got to like really press the keys down.
I
actually go back and forth. So my normal keyboard is a Logitech,
cool.
just a ergonomic Logitech, and I can type super fast on that. But what I found is when I type on my MacBook, I don't know what these keys on this MacBook are so clean that I can type faster on my MacBook on a rectangular keyboard than I can with the ergonomic one. I absolutely love it. And I've got a mechanical one too that has a little like the deeper switches. But I don't know. My first, so you talk about the computers. My first computer was a Tandy 1000. My dad bought it, and it had a 5 1/4 drive. And I remember listening to the computer like buzzing as it's starting up. And then you've got one disk for the operating system, and then you've got another disk for your save. And I remember writing in, I think it was MS DOS was the operating system, and then I can't remember what the word processor was, but I remember. I don't know if it was WordStar or not. I'd have to research that.
Did you have a green screen?
No, it was a black screen with white, or maybe it was blue. It was black or blue, with white letters. And
I mean, going from that, the green screen. I mean, when you sat in my bedroom, like typing on this thing with that green screen, you're doing that for a number of hours, and you start to get optical illusion, like spiders crawling up the wall. It was weird. Right. I was actually glad to go to the kind of screen that you're talking about, the black and white one.
Yeah.
But still the monitor was that deep.
Right. Oh yeah. I remember 10 years ago having a CRT monitor that's that deep, and you're like, man, I really wish I could push this against the wall, but then your desk is a foot out from the wall because the back of the monitor is hanging off the desk.
First world problems, eh?
Oh, I know it, man. And it was crazy is I still have my discs from back in the day. I don't know where they are now, but I've got my 3.5-inch floppies that still have like the names of the chapters of the books that I had written in pen on the disc, so I knew what it was. But I don't have any disk drives to read them. Like none of my computers have disk drives. So
I had to do that with I'd gone to I can't remember it was a precursor to Word, and then I had a book that I'd written. I mean, this was a novella that I got published. Actually, got published years and years and years and years ago. It's called Mind Games Fool's Mate. To which the answer has to be yes, they do. But anyway,
yeah.
But I that was on a 5 1/4, and to try to transfer that to the other program, I did it. But I mean, all the weird flipping text in there. You had to do find and replace like hundreds and hundreds of times to actually get get what you wanted. But
I'm pretty sure this is the. I'm not entirely sure that this is the one that I had, but this is the. This is the computer that I had back in the day. I'm fairly confident that this was it. Let me make it. I can't make that big. Make this big. There we go. But I can't remember. It looks like that's what it is. But yeah, high tech, very high tech.
I can't even remember whether mine sat on the computer like that.
I know mine did because I remember like shifting the monitor like sideways. If I wanted to move on the desk, I would just turn the monitor, cant it on the. Yeah, so good times.
I went through different iterations because I mean the thing that I got first off, I mean it wasn't a make. It was something my brother just put together.
Right.
With all different bits and pieces, IBM stuff, whatever. But
so you got into writing, and how long did you dabble in it before you were like, I can really make this a thing?
It was just a very. It's one of the things I've said in the various interviews and so on. I took every step of the ladder with somebody standing on my fingers all the way.
Yeah.
I had a fantasy written, and an agent actually took it for a while, but nothing came of that. I think it's in my mid-20s or whatever that I decided I needed to get something published to keep me going. Keep focused, if you like. And I started looking into different things that I could do. And I was getting publications. There was one publication, it was called Writing Magazine. And in that, I discovered the small presses of the 80s. And this was like, I always get this mixed up. A3 booklets about this. Yeah. And these lots of people were starting up these various magazines. Some were science fiction, some were fantasy, some were horror, all of this. And they would only have a few hundred subscribers. And if you wanted to submit a story, you had to be a subscriber. Yeah. So I got into that and I started writing short stories and targeted them at various magazines, which I had to subscribe to. Was it the first magazine that accepted a story of mine? I went, hey, guy, like this. It went bankrupt before publishing it.
Yeah.
And then thereafter, I got some acceptances. I think my first one was 1989, 86. It was a magazine called Backbrain Recluse, and they took a science fiction story of mine. I don't know if I even got. I don't think there was any payment in it.
Yeah.
I think half the time what you got was you got a copy of the magazine that you were already subscribed to.
Right. Yeah. Or a couple to hand out to your buddies or something.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But I kept doing that, and I kept banging off stories to all these different magazines, and I started to get more and more published. And then a small press publisher called Tangent took. Now, what did they take first? They took Oh, back up a bit. I wrote this. I was in a postal workshop. I think I said to you this about before, but I can't remember whether it was private talk or what.
Yeah.
And this in those days was you had a number of writers scattered around the country, and it would be the addresses listed in order, and you would put in chapter of a book, maybe a short story, a piece of writing anyway.
Yeah.
And you would send it on to the next person on the address, on the address list. And that person would criticize your story, your piece of writing, and then put his own piece in. Yeah. And then it would go to the next person on the list. And it kept doing this circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Every time it came back to you, you had criticisms from all of the other writers to work with.
Right.
And that just went round and round and round. I did that for 10 years. But I did one story, a novella. It was called To Die But Once. That was the original title. But then in this writing magazine I was talking about, I came across this advert for somebody who wanted to start a little publishing organization to sell books at airports. It was just, what's it called? I can't even remember the bloody publisher. But I sent this story to them, and they accepted it. I got a phone call, and it dropped me on my ass. They paid me £1,000, yeah, for this story, and it was like, wow, bloody hell. And that was Mind Games Fool's Mate, the one I mentioned before, yeah. And that was published. I got copies of the book and everything, and yet again, they fell afoul of the net book agreement back in the day. And
nice.
They went bankrupt. Yeah.
Right.
They published my book, and I got copies of the book, but it never arrived in any places to sell or whatever. But at the time, I'd written another novella because I've got a market here.
Right.
And I couldn't send it to them. But then I sent it to this other publisher called Tangent. And they published that novella. I earned bugger all money on it.
Right.
Then after that, they published a collection of short stories of mine called The Engineer. And that was published.
That actually is a good segue into the anthologies that you're putting together now, because I mean, obviously you write novels now, and that's where you make all your bones, and that's where what you're known for. But you've got a whole bunch of short stories or shorter works that some people may have been exposed to prior or who haven't been exposed to and are just finding you now. And obviously we had you on the show last time. We talked about, Mason's Rats and Bad Traveling, and I can't remember the one that's in the other anthology.
The Stone Desert.
There you go. All three of them fantastic stories, and if you haven't had a chance to check them out, they're all on Netflix. Love, Death, and Robots. But you're putting together two more collections of your stories. There's one out already that's Lockdown Tales.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Lockdown Tales was my attempt. I wanted to get back to writing more short stories, but I find that it's more difficult. After writing novels for so long, it's difficult to fine it down to short story length. So what I ended up with was a series of novellas.
Yeah.
So then
that's where I ended up too.
I did a series of novellas in the first year of lockdown. Yeah. So I published those as Lockdown Tales, and that was done. But also I carried on doing some more, and I had some more that were some I could sort of squeeze into a Lockdown Tales 2 because that they might not have been written in lockdown, but they were published in lockdown by Asimov's and Analog. There were the couple of that went in there. So I've done another collection called Lockdown Tales 2,
which is not out yet.
Not yet, no.
Yeah, right.
That's at Newcon Press, which is run by Ian Waits. So it's a small publisher, but
yeah.
And then I was looking at all the stories written for these small press magazines in the 80s and so on. Quite a few of them that weren't published. And I thought, right, I'll put all these together in a collection. I chose the title Fantastical because it's not science fiction, not just science fiction, and it's not just fantasy, and it's a big mixture of all sorts of stuff. But I also took the opportunity with that collection to publish Bad Traveling with the Netflix thing, which it appeared in a magazine a long time ago, a small press magazine, but very few people saw that. It also appeared in a anthology, Space Pirates, called Space Pirates, but that's not available anymore, Space Pirates. But then I thought, well, okay, I need to put it in a collection of my own. So I put Bad Traveling into this collection, along with some stories that were related because they're set in the same world. One was called Jable Sharks, and another one called Return of the Ship. So then, for the completists, they're all there. The three are there, but also with the Mason's Rat stories, they've appeared in various things. They've appeared in A Year's Best from Gardner Dozois. I can't remember. I think they were in Asimov's, one of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've appeared in various places, but and also they were published as a little booklet by one of the small press guys. He did this little booklet of all the three Mason's Rat stories, because there's not one, there's three. And he gave that out at a science fiction convention as a publicity stunt for his magazine.
Nice.
But what I did was, I mean, within the last 5 years or something, or perhaps longer, is I published the three Mason's Rat stories on Kindle. But the problem is it's too small a collection for Amazon to print as a print on demand book.
Oh, right.
So I took the three stories and I put those in this collection as well, so people can. I mean, because a lot of people will go, I want the paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
contains
three.
And the three Masons, isn't the Mason's Rats that's in Love, Death, and Robots? That's like an amalgamation of all three, right? It's taken all three stories and put together.
Yeah, it's mainly the first.
Yeah.
It's mainly the first story, but also they kind of tacked part of one of the other stories on at the end, like the drinking scene at the end.
Yeah.
The rats and the farmer having a drink together and all this. That comes in later. That's actually in later stories.
Gotcha.
But they wanted that like dramatic denouement.
The juxtaposition of the ultra violence to now we're sipping tea together. Yeah.
Yeah. We've just been killing each other, but now we're drinking whiskey together.
After a murderous rampaging robot has destroyed your whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, but then again, I suppose, I mean, you could say it happens. I mean, there's that story about the trench warfare, wasn't there, where they stopped for a while, and then the Germans and the English were playing football between the bloody trenches. I mean,
yeah, I think they had like during Christmas time, they were singing like Christmas carols together. And when do you think those two collections will be coming out?
Well, Lockdown Tales 2, that's in the hands of Ian Waits of New Compress. I just leave that to him.
Yep.
The guy that did the artwork on Lockdown Tales 1, and I loved that artwork. I thought it was just great. I've got him now to do, because I published all my bits on Kindle, a lot of this old stuff, and I just put the old covers up, or something generic. It's something just taken off of Amazon. And I decided it's about time I smartened them up. So I got in contact with this artist, Vincent Sammy, and I'm getting him to do covers for all. Yeah, see, I like that. I love that. He's getting him to do covers for all of my stuff that's on my stuff that's on Kindle, the stuff that I personally publish, not the stuff that Macmillan's published, obviously.
Right.
And when he's done the artwork for those, and when he's done the artwork for Fantastical, that's when I'll publish it, because I could spend a day just getting on there and sorting it all out.
Right.
So, but again, that's dependent on the artist when he comes up with the work. So.
Tom says, when it's time to relax, one beer stands clear year after year. That's true. That's the best way to solve a neighborhood fight between friends is free beer. That's what I say.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to work for me because I've given the bloody stuff up.
Yeah. Well, just let the rats drink. They'll be fine.
Trouble is here at Crete, it's alcohol is far too easy. It's very, very easy. Wow, you've got boiling hot days, beach, bars everywhere.
Right.
To go down there and get the frozen glass with Mythos beer in it is very, very easy.
Right.
And also up here in the mountain, I don't know if you know much about Crete. They have stills everywhere. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my village has about 60 people in it. In high season, it has less in the winter, and it's got about three stills in it.
So you guys are like the Ireland of Greece.
Yeah.
So somebody said they have more bars per square mile than any other country on Earth, which I believe.
Well, I mean, they produce this. It's raki. It's basically they just big plastic barrels, grapes in, fermented with their own yeast. Because I don't know if you know the bloom on a grape is a natural yeast. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the bloom. If many fruits when it looks dull and when you rub it, it goes shiny. Well, that dullness on there is usually a natural yeast that is on the fruit.
Oh, okay.
So they ferment that in the barrels, and with wine, the first fermentation is when the most alcohol is produced, and then later fermentation when they put things in demijohns or whatever. That's a long-term thing, but doesn't produce much alcohol. So they do first fermentation with this grapes and so on, and then it goes into a big still, and they still it off. This raki. It's just basically alcohol, you know.
Yeah.
But also it's a long process. So what they do is they scoop hot coals from underneath the still, put them in like barbecues, and they basically sit there eating barbecued pork chops and all sorts of bits and pieces, like loads and loads of food, drinking raki, and it can go on for days. And this raki, I mean, I'm not sure of the price now, but I mean, only a few years ago, you could buy a litre of it, and we're talking possibly 30% alcohol, 30% ABV, whatever.
Yeah.
Not far off a whiskey, if you like,
right.
10% below whiskey.
Yeah.
And you can buy a litre of it for like €4.
Oh, shit.
So it's very, very easy to be a total soak here. So I've been showing some restraint.
You got to be careful, right? Well, we got a few minutes left, and I want to talk. The last time you were on, we talked about Weaponized as the second book of these standalone novels that you're doing here as a group or as a project of standalone novels. Can you talk a little bit about your next one?
Yes.
Because I thought you said the last time we talked that it was finished and in edits. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's the title of that next one that's coming out?
The next one is War Bodies.
War Bodies. Okay.
They I mean the reason for the the three standalones is people who write lots of series. If you're writing serial books and trilogies and all this kind of thing, it's you've got fewer entry points for new readers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They go into a shop and it'll have book 2 of the so-and-so trilogy.
Right.
Nobody's going to buy that, are they?
Right.
Yeah? They're going to start on book 1. So I want to do some standalones to get basically hook people in.
Yes.
So that's what I actually said about in the last discussion about this 3-book contract.
Yeah.
I'm going to do 3 standalones to get people in. Now, War Bodies. Well, for the people that know that are into the history of all the books and what's going, the future history of it, is set at the beginning, not the beginning, late. No, sorry, not the beginning. Near the end, Weaponized was near the beginning. Near the end of the Praetor-Human War.
Okay.
And it's basically a very complicated recruiting campaign by the polity, which in my books I have there's a diaspora from our Earth where everybody is going off to start off with before the polity forms.
Right.
So you've got the polity forms, but then you've got outlying worlds that were occupied beforehand. Yeah, and you've got different sects and different ideologies, whatever, have gone out to these different worlds. And one of those, which has appeared in some of my books, is the cyberrat. People who are basically turning themselves into cyborgs, machines, on the basis that they want to meld with technology before artificial intelligence destroys the human race. This is their thesis. And what happened? The War Bodies of the title are the cyberrat on this particular world. It's horrible. They hone themselves down to basically what are plug forms of human beings. Basically, slowly getting rid of the entire body and like just interfaces, so that they can plug into bodies.
Oh, right on.
Big machine bodies and all this.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And the War Bodies obviously is just a big body that a cyberrat can plug into, which is weaponized and very, very dangerous and so on.
Right.
That's the basis. That's the kind of the basis. But there's also a polity intervention on the world, and basically to recruit, but also to grab somebody on that world who is has some other technology installed in his bones, where he's able to seize control of machinery. And they want him as well. I don't want to give too much away.
Sure, absolutely. And you said that book was in edits the last time. Do you have any idea when that's forecasted to release?
Well, it's got to come back from the editor, and it will probably be out. Well, the start of next year, April, May, something like this. Right, but then I've got to do something else now.
Isn't that the greatest thing I think about writing is finishing a book and then planning another one, and then you're like, I don't know how this feeling could get any better, and then you finish that book and you're like, oh no, I got to start a new one, and then so it's just like a never-ending cycle of. I actually got an email from Bella Pagan, the editor at I think she's now been promoted to publisher at Macmillan, saying what next, and I'm thinking, not sure, because when I was putting together these collections, I found myself, I was going through old short stories, and of course that led into like a lot of editing, right?
Because when I wrote them, a lot has changed in the way that I do things, and I had to do an awful lot of editing. And then also that applied to the novellas that I was doing for these lockdown tales too. And I was going to include some novellas that I'd do, two novellas, but then I decided no, there's something structurally wrong with them. Yeah. The first of them, I figured out what it was and put it right.
Yeah.
Did that, but the second one is still structurally wrong, and I'm looking at it because there's some lovely ideas in there and there's a lot going on, and I'm thinking maybe I'm going to turn that into a book. I'm going
nice.
to pull it apart and rewrite it, and
yeah,
it's a similar kind of thing with what happened with Weaponized, because when I wrote Weaponized, that started as a short story, it then became a novella, and it then just kept growing because I grew the backstory in the story I grew the backstory, and it's tied into the present and into the mid-range things that it all tied together.
Yeah,
and I could keep on expanding it out, and that's how the Weaponized grew from a short story into a book. So, but this I'm going to do that with this one, and it's a weird one as well. Another one based. Do you get this based on a dream stories?
I have had a couple of ideas that have come from dreams, but I don't know that I've turned any of those ideas into stories that have sold. I know that I've got a couple ideas for. I had an idea for a clairvoyant, kind of like psychic person that his psychic clairvoyant like future casting thing only worked when he was underwater. and I haven't figured out, like, I think that's a cool concept, because then you're like, I'm seeing things, but you've got to hold your breath, or you've got to get like some way to breathe underwater or something like that. And
sensory deprivation tank.
yeah, exactly. And then if that would make, if just going like in a bathtub does something, or doing in a deprivation tank, does that give you a farther reach or a longer reach? So I had some ideas to do that came from a dream. I think the idea is cool, like the concept is kind of cool. I just don't know what I'd do a story with it. I've thought about like the idea of doing a time traveling story, or like a story where you can see the future or something like that is cool. But also doing time travel is, or seeing the future, that type of storytelling is sometimes really complex too, and so I don't want to do it wrong.
Yeah, but this is my reply to because I wrote a time travel one, Cow, and people are saying, "Oh, when are you going to do another one?" And I think, "Oh no, all the complications." When you think about the Terminator films and the what was it?
Yeah,
Terminator Genesis.
Yep, the latest one, right?
To the original scene in the very first Terminator film of Arnold Schwarzenegger walking out naked, and then it completely changes from that point on, and it too many complications. Too many complications. You can do a simple. I mean, the first film was simple. It was a closed loop, wasn't it?
Right. Yep.
But the more that you do with time travel, it becomes difficult.
I've read one time travel. It's not even really time travel. It was called The 13 Lives of Harry August, I think. Basically it involves this guy. Every time he dies, he starts over as an infant being born. And it's like this complete loop that happens. And so he does things multiple times. So it's not really time travel, because he's not going back. He's just being reborn, and it's like being reincarnated, but back when he's a baby. And so
Groundhog Day, but on a
on a big scale, right? And there was some really, it was kind of repetitive. Like, obviously it's going to be kind of repetitive because you're doing his life over and over again. But as he starts to figure out what's going on and what he can change, he starts to it was a really interesting concept in the way like time travel is approached as a story.
Wasn't there a film?
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow was one.
No, there's another one. And I watched it. It's and I can't even remember the damn name. But it was a guy, and he's basically getting killed, and he kept on going back to the same point, waking up in the morning, and then having to negotiate through all this, and he's killed time and time and time again until he could, and going back, and then until he can sort it all out. And this is a recent one, and I can't.
Yeah, it's the Tom Cruise one, right?
No, it was. Oh, shit.
It's not Tenet.
Hmm?
Somebody said Tenet in the live chat. It's not Tenet, and it's not Edge of Tomorrow, because that's what I'm thinking too. Is Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise?
No, the other one didn't say
Oh, Tenet. But it's not. That's not time travel.
I think that is it. Yeah.
But he doesn't die and start again, though. He doesn't repeat.
Maybe I'm confusing it, but I know he wakes up in bed and then he's got to. It's a bit vague now, and he has to negotiate his way through all these things, and he gets killed in this particular way. I mean, somebody tries to kill him in the apartment first off, but then he figures out how to get out of that, and then somebody kills him on the street outside, and then he figures out how to get past that.
I'd be curious to see that.
There's a car coming after him, and he gets killed in that, but he happens so many times that he figures out how to get past that, and so it goes.
Rick says that there was a TV show on NBC about 10 years ago based on that premise.
Yeah, this is a film. I think it's probably actually based on the game. It might be based on the game. And I believe
I'm curious. I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm curious now what that is. Yeah, but anyway, 15 Lives of Harry August. It was a good book. I enjoyed it.
Is that an old one?
When was that come out? I can't remember when that was published. It's fairly recent. 2014 is when it came out.
Oh right, no, it's not.
So yeah,
not one. It's not one read.
Looper is a good time travel. I thought Looper was actually really good as a time travel. The way that they did it.
But that's not the one I was talking about. I'm gonna have to look. Gonna have to try and look it up and find it.
If you find it, let me know because I'm curious about it.
Yeah, and it was actually very enjoyable. It was and there was a. No. Anyway, no, I'm thinking about
well, we got over a little bit, and that's okay. And let's see if I missed anybody in the live chat. We don't talk about Ken anymore because he thinks I'm a hipster. Kit's here. Hey, Kit, how are you? Basically, variations on Groundhog Day. Yeah, I mean, it's just, those kind of. It was boss level. Is that what?
Yes.
The movie you're thinking about?
Yes. That's it.
Boss level. Oh, I think that I did see a trailer for that. Did I even watch that movie? I think I watched that movie.
I'd recommend it. It's very enjoyable.
Or that I watched some of it and then now I can't remember. Boss level. Who starred in that? No, I haven't watched this movie, but I did watch the trailer for it, and I thought that it looked really interesting. Yeah. Boss level with Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson, Naomi Watts.
Yeah, Mel Gibson's the baddie. Yeah, yes.
Oh, now I'll have to watch that. I wonder if it's on. I bet it's on Amazon. Thanks, Rick.
It was either on Prime or Netflix. I can't remember.
Justin Watson's here. What's up, Justin? I'm actually going to be on Justin's show. Well, it's not going to be live. We're recording at night on Wednesday, and then it'll come. Rick says it's on Hulu. I'll have to check it out because I have Hulu. Anyway, let's wrap up for today. Neal, thank you very much for coming back on the show. Anytime you want to come back on, the invitation is open.
Again, we went off on different paths.
Look, I think that we waffled more during that episode than we've done in the previous two, and I think it went fantastic. I think that was probably the best episode we've ever done. It's all thanks to me.
Yes.
Thank thanks everybody for hanging out with us during the show and joining
Even
us
if
in
you
the
are a
live
hipster.
chat. That's right. That's right. Well played. Well played. Yeah, sorry we're a little early. I didn't get the notification out, but whenever Neal's on the show, we've got to run just a little bit early because it's like really late his time, and so yeah, good times. I think next week we're gonna have Luke Bartlett on the show talking about his. Now I can't remember what the thing is called. Galaxy. Hold on, let me find it. I've got it in Facebook Messenger. Yeah, Galactic Core. We're talking about his Galactic Core space opera trilogy, I think, next week. And that should be regular time, 2 p.m. Leo feels betrayed. Don't feel betrayed, Leo. Don't feel betrayed. And that tapping that's outside your window, don't worry about that either. Everybody else, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. We will be back next week. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing, and, of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. We'll see you guys.
Cheers.